Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Attack on Titan anime review. This one's going to be for Season 4, Episode 13. Once again, I am anime only with Attack on Titan, for anyone wondering. But let's get into the episode. Overall, another really strong episode. With this one in particular, I like that they really made the core of the episode just kind of one long extended scene that they used to just like flesh out this episode. It involved Gabi, Nicolo, Kaya, Sasha's father, like a lot of characters, and then by the end of the episode, even more characters are in this restaurant. That this seemingly innocuous sort of like sequence of events is now coming together to create like so many like incredible character dynamics, and very important discussions are going to happen stemming off from this. But what we got here was, of course, mainly the reveal of Gabi killed Sasha coming out in front of Sasha's father, in front of Kaya, which ends up being important, and just a major drama moment here. But I thought it was like executed really well in terms of continuing Gabi's arc as a character really well. She's already had a little bit of an eye-opening experience in the last episode where we focused on Kaya, but here it is even more. Now she's sort of like outed in front of everyone as, you know, quote-unquote a villain. She has killed someone who basically everyone in the room greatly admired or loved, whatever. And she's defended from other people in this scene. And it's the main takeaway you get is, of course, that Gabi realizes that, oh, like she has to take from this that all the Eldians on this island on Paradis, they're not all devils. That like Reiner's already gone through, like Falco's already gone through, she now has to understand that they're all individuals, that they are the same, and trying to make some point that all Eldians should be wiped out because they're devils because of the history. It doesn't matter because, you know, people are individuals. And she gets that in this scene where, you know, the person she thought was going to be her ally in Nicolo, who's from Marley, ends up basically being revealed to love Sasha. And that's a reveal to her that just, you know, a Marleyan can actually fall in love with an Eldian. That's a huge thing. And then the fact that like he would then go as far as to like invite all of these people here to give a meal to them. The by the end of it you get this other interesting dynamic where Gabi is on like friendly terms with Kaya, but the one person who actually tries to kill Gabi is Kaya, because that reveal hits her slightly differently than it hits everyone else. And Gabi just gets like shocked to her core as a character like so many times in this episode, in that one scene, that she has to be like different coming out of this. Like the big thing with Gabi is obviously that like really interesting character, but you always kind of go like, oh my god, Gabi, what are you doing? Every time she starts the Eldian devils kind of spiel basically that she's been taught, every time she goes into that mode, you're kind of like, that's not really how you feel, that's just what you've been told. Address the actual situation here. And now it feels like she can't really still be that way from before. She has to kind of be more awakened to the situation like Falco is. And they really played on that quite well with the idea that Sasha's father, who you had the expectation would be the one who would potentially want to take revenge, is actually the one who takes the very mature decision, but hard decision, to not want to pursue revenge against Gabi for what happened. Nicolo wants to do it, Kaya obviously wants to do it, but he just picks up the knife and just, you know, explains the story that in his mind what happened is just that in his efforts to sort of try and help Sasha kind of adapt to sort of a new life, she just moved from one forest into another, and it was still a case of hunt and be hunted, and things got even bigger. They found another place. They went there. She killed some people. She then got shot, and he just accepts that, like this is what happens. This is this cycle of hatred. You kill someone, revenge is taken on them. They then want revenge, and he's deciding as an adult here to stop that. And obviously, it's a very simple line, but it's probably one of the most effective ones in the whole episode. Is just after all this reveal comes out, she looks over at Sasha's parents, and they ask Gabby, "Are you okay?" And she can't believe that they don't hate her. And I think she also can't quite believe that Kaya is actually the one who does hate her for this reveal. And that's just this kind of mind-blowing scene to her that she can't fully comprehend. And obviously in the middle of all of this, you have her trying to defend Falco, because Falco is the one who, like, Niccolo is threatening. And so she is put in this sort of situation everyone else is put in, where, like, she took revenge on people who were killed around her by killing Sasha, but now she wants to protect someone who is at risk of dying as part of a revenge. And so it's just all of these points being brought up with Gabby. And her then going on to sort of be saved by Mikasa from Kaya, and then talking to Armin and Mikasa about just, like, why don't you hate me? And Armin being the one who's like, you talk about killing a lot. That reminds me of someone I know, Eren. And then who walks into the room? Eren. So Gabby's already in this, like, crazy situation. Her whole worldview has just been sort of shattered over the last few days. And now here she is in a conversation with, the big three, basically, of Attack on Titan. And one of them, of course, being Eren, is the one who initiated the attack on her hometown, which caused so much of the chaos and the situations that have happened recently. And she doesn't know how to react. And so Falco's already had his scene of, like, sitting in on an Eren conversation. She's now getting her opportunity to do that as well. So the inclusion of her in this, like, very kind of this scene everyone's going to really care about that's coming up. The meeting of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin for the first time in a while. We care about this scene so much, and then Gabby's here. It's a real, like, test of, like, how do you feel about Gabby? Do you find it interesting that she's here, or do you still hate her for killing Sasha? And it's just this kind of test of the audience in a way. I personally find it very interesting to see how people who know Eren really well and are worried about the direction he's gone viewing him, versus Gabby, who must think he's the villain, who will obviously, I assume, take what he's doing here as being, yeah, that's just like what I expect from you, and just the contrast of those dynamics. But yeah, just incredible how they managed to turn just sort of like a dinner scene with a lot of people just talking into this absolutely, like, riveting, like, core of an episode. One of the other major things we learned in this episode was, this reveal, kind of, I suppose we've been waiting for a while. What actually happened, like, back in, like, season 2 with Connie's town, like that like his parents were converted into Titans and so on. How did that happen? In addition to, I suppose, Zeke clearly has something going on that relates to this. What's been the setup with the wine for the last few episodes? That all gets revealed here, as it's revealed that what happened to Connie's hometown was a gas attack, and the gas had Zeke's spinal fluid in it. And they explained that Zeke's spinal fluid on Eldians, the effect that it has is that it causes them to sort of, like, just freeze up and basically be paralyzed. But then he can activate his, like, Titan powers, and by, like, roaring and connecting the through the paths and focusing on their location, he can turn them into Titans because they have his spinal fluid in them. Then they reveal that the wine has his spinal fluid in it as well, setting up the big master plan in all of this. Is that, parody, we've dealt with the Titans. The Titans aren't a threat anymore, but it's always going to be a threat if hundreds of Titans pop up out of nowhere right in the middle of your town. And especially if a lot of those Titans are your soldiers who are meant to fight the Titans, that's a very clever plan, but it's also going to go quite badly, I suppose, for Parody, because you have to remember in the back of your heads here, Marley is coming at some point. We don't know exactly when they're going to show up, but just as like all this sort of infighting and like political maneuvering is going on in Parody, they're going to get hit by an attack, and it's going to be interesting to see how badly or good it goes. There's so much kind of potential here, and the question is obviously, okay, who has drank the wine? When Zeke decides to activate his plan, who is going to get transformed into a Titan? I don't think Levi is going to get transformed, whether that be because they just reveal that he doesn't drink or something like that, or that because he's an Ackerman, he's not actually part of the Eldian race in some way. That might come up, but I get the impression Levi is going to be more or less left potentially on his own, or only with a few soldiers left to face all these Titans and Zeke as the Beast Titan. So Zeke, I suppose, is going to make his escape. The preview, I think, made it clear that action is going to happen in the next episode relating to Levi. And obviously, the wine we know is in that location. People who are guarding Zeke have been drinking it. So that's key. And then Flock reveals that a lot of the military police, the high-ups who we saw drinking it before, they're also going to get transformed as well. So a lot of the high-up leadership of Parody is also going to be affected by this. So I suppose that will create a situation where it will, I suppose, more or less be kind of like the Scouts versus the Jaegerists is more or less the impression I get. As the kind of the Parody side of things. But also it's like, whoa, this is... It was one thing, the whole assassination of Zachary. It's a whole other thing here that, like, how many people are, like, the Jaegerists sort of willing to be behind, like, turning into Titans? Because, again, Zeke is on Eren's side, ultimately. They have to explain that, of course. Like, that's probably the big thing we're waiting for, is Zeke needs to explain why he has changed sides, what he's about at this point, and, like, is he using Eren, or is Eren using him? That's what's unclear, and that's why, like, obviously the next episode, not just Zeke finally activating his plan, but Eren explaining to his best friends, I suppose, what he is doing, and I'm guessing breaking off contact with them. This will, I suppose, more or less be the sort of end of their friendship, because I don't think they're going to resolve anything in this conversation. This will just be our insight as the audience into Eren's motivations at this point in time, and clarifying that they are fully on opposite sides of this. They don't agree with the exact way to do things. And I just feel like that's the way that this is going to have to go. Obviously, Armin and Mikasa don't agree with the lengths that Eren and the Jaegerists are going to make things happen. But from their point of view, I guess, they're viewing the current leadership of Parody and anyone who supports that leadership as basically doing nothing in a time when they should be acting. That they're busy planning who should be the next founding Titan. Like, we're done with Eren, let's give his abilities over to someone else. They don't agree with that, because Eren should be more important and is more important. And I think that's why that scene with Levi, where he kind of is like the amount of time, effort, and, you know, soldiers who've died to save Eren in all these different scenes. I can't believe that this is sort of the way things are going. But does Levi necessarily agree with the exact approach that's being taken here? And that's what I like, is that they're still playing with, like, all these shades of grey. That everyone is doing something that's not great. Like, the leaders just deciding on their own that, yeah, we prefer the Titan powers off Eren and in the hands of someone else who we can trust, is kind of like, that's not great, given what Eren has sort of allowed them to accomplish ultimately. So that's kind of a big kind of sticking point in all of this, especially if you're, like, really, really, like, I value Eren as the main character, and so I'm always going to sort of stick up for him a bit. The point that the leadership kind of wants to get rid of Eren is a pretty major one, which is why you're seeing people loyal to Eren go this way. So it really is all about, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because like both sides want to use the rumbling, but my guess here is that the leadership just wants to use a test rumbling as a deterrent, but Zeke and Eren likely want to just do the full rumbling. Because what way does one island have to basically defeat the rest of the world is to flatten the rest of the world with the all those colossal titans. That's obviously something that is such an extreme plan where like you can't fully agree with Eren on that, which is why it's very important for Eren to explain his actions. We know that he has changed because of the hopeful ending of season 3 for a lot of the other characters finding out about the rest of the world was this harsh, down to earth reality for Eren of, oh, we are just a small island compared to the rest of the world. But the rest of the world hates us. Our enemies is the entire rest of the world. And he has seen no path to solve that outside of just treating everyone else as his enemy and, flattening the world, I suppose. And that's how he hopes to, I suppose, achieve freedom, which I guess is going to still be his focus of just turning things around for Eldia, basically. Reversing the situation that they're in right now, where they're completely oppressed and the whole world hates them. The question is is it going to be as simple as that? Are they literally just being boom, Eren is a full-on villain now. You can maybe find some way to roughly agree with how he's doing things, but you're not really meant to because he's planning to kill so many people. How do they make that work and have it not just sort of feel unsatisfying that our main character is just evil now? When I think there's a certain expectation that they should be doing a little bit more. There should be more nuance with Eren than just, I'm the leader of the enemy faction kind of type thing now. Obviously, there is more depth to that, and I think a lot will depend on what he says next week and, going into the later half of the series. Because I suppose that's where we're kind of at right now, in that, okay, we're getting this big meeting, but we're ever so close to Eren and Zeke meeting and the potential of a Marley attack coming in. And depending on which one of those things happens at first, or, what order they take place in, the series could be basically getting right into its end game, right now. Because it's hard to see how they just have this other battle, then they calm things down again and then build up again. That more or less, I guess, the second Eren and Zeke meet, they will want to activate the rumbling. So that kind of is something that has to be a huge moment when they go for it. But a big attack from Marley is going to very much disrupt things because, Parody has basically fallen apart in between the last attack and now. How do we defend against potentially Marley and the rest of the world delivering a counterattack here? Because Parody only have Armin really as a Titan. Eren's there, but it's very unclear about what exactly path he's going to take. Will they just have to basically be roughly on the same side but not really with each other? That's going to be an interesting one. It means that I feel it's highly likely that this season, because this is way more content I guess still to come, this season is going to end right in the middle of some very big stuff happening, I guess. I think it will be a tough wait wherever they decide to end it. Just because there's still so much to go. You need a whole Zeke, explain yourself. Eren, explain yourself. Big Marley attack coming in. And the rumbling has to happen at some point. There's no way they're cramming all of that into a few episodes. So something big is going to have to happen at the end of this season, and as we move into, I suppose, the final season part 2, which I guess will come in a few months. But I still think we don't know the exact details about that yet. I think that's most of what I want to talk about here. Just once again, overall, this really, really strong setup episode, but it also had some, really strong scenes for Gabby with, Kaya and Sasha's father. Niccolo, stepping up as well as a more minor character. The emotions involved in that scene were really, really strong. And it's obviously going to continue into the next episode, which I think is really good. So that's what I have to say about this week's episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.